Hi everyone, it's Dr. T here again with one of my client graduation interviews. And as you all know, I intermittently do these interviews with certain clients in our program because I get so many different questions each week, each month, all the time, asking a lot of different things about what's possible for people who have been struggling in a variety of areas in their life. And I figure you're all listening to me all the time. And it's a lot more beneficial sometimes to just hear what it's like from different people who have gone through our program, people that you can relate to on many different levels, and have them share with you their journey in the process, where they were, where they are, and how this all worked for them. My other reason for doing that is because, in changing the way in which people transform their lives, we're in a big transition in our world now. There's a lot of conventional different ways that we've done this for a long, long time. And when we're in a trajectory change of something new that we do that's available out there, there's sometimes it's important for us to catch up and learn from the outside in about how that works, how that is possible, and especially for those of you who have tried a lot of things and you feel like, maybe the problem's you and, how, if something hasn't worked in my life or many things, how could this work? And I want to really be able to give you a real insider's view on what it's like to be in our program and what's possible for you. So I am going to go through this discussion with Kellie, and who I'll introduce to you, by the way. I'm going to go through this discussion, and I'm going to be asking questions on your behalf, and see what I can do to really help you have that sense of what's possible on your end, what's possible with us. And so with that said, I want to introduce my amazing guest, and her name is Dr. Kellie Kirksey. And Dr. Kellie and I have had just one of my favorite experiences ever, just such a profound connection, such a wonderful, wonderful collaboration. It's been a real gift in my life. And another reason why I do these kinds of interviews, it's really about a ceremonial experience of having collaborated on such a deep level that we like to honor it, acknowledge it, and seal it, right, with a conversation like this for how powerful it's been, how impactful, and what it will do from here on out. So I want to introduce you again to Dr. Kellie, and she's a doctor at the Cleveland Clinic, but she's also so much more than what I just described, and I want her to, Kellie, I'd like to have you describe a little bit about yourself, what you'd like us to know, and who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, first I want to say thank you so much for this honor of having this ceremony, because it really has been a rite of passage and a sacred journey. So this is very important to me, this moment, this time. I have been, I would say, in the healing arts of sorts since I was a child. So I grew up in a household where, I was a kid and my mom she would be brewing up some tea that looked like bark, and I'd be drinking that, and she'd be mixing up mustard plasters and putting it on my chest So I grew up in a way that we didn't really seek out traditional medicine, that my mother and my grandmother and my aunts, they would sit around and talk about what the best remedy was for whatever needed healing. And when we did seek out traditional medicine, that was usually a time where me and my mother would journey together. And that was like our bonding time in the car, that we were going on this journey, going outside of our community, our healing circle. Wow. So in my professional arena, I started out getting my bachelor's degree in psychology and Spanish. And I chose psychology because I knew I liked to talk and I liked to help people. Again, I was that kid that was bringing my second grade classmates over for a makeover. And so that was just my, and we didn't have lights in our house. We didn't have gas most of the time, but I would light candles, and I was having rituals and didn't even know I was having these really amazing rituals. I was just a kid doing my thing.
You were creating some full potential out of that, right?
Yeah, just like, this
Great
is what
makeover.
I
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
Right. I always just made use of what I had. So getting a bachelor's degree in psychology and Spanish made a lot of sense to me, because the Spanish helped me to be more of a bridge to other people, other cultures. And so then when I got into my master's degree, which was in rehabilitation counseling, now I thought I was going for rehabilitation counseling as in addictions. Mm-hmm. So I get into my first class in my master's degree, and I call my mother on break, and I say, I think I'm in the wrong program, because they're talking about psychosocial aspects of disabilities, and they're talking about anatomy and physiology. I wanted to do like drug treatment. What is happening?
Yeah.
And she was like, stay where you are. That's where you're supposed to be. And so it kind of registered in my spirit that, okay, so what I thought I was going to be doing is not really what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to just go with the flow of it.
Hanging out.
Yeah. So in the middle of my master's program, I took a little segue and went to Caracas, Venezuela for a year and studied cognitive psychology there, and wound up really like meeting a group of people that we would get together and drum. And so drumming would put me into a state of mind that was really relaxed and really receptive to being in this peaceful channel. So after a year of being in Caracas and studying at the university, I came back and got a job working with Cuban refugees, going into the prison system and bringing them back to Columbus, Ohio for rehabilitation. And so I was asking myself, so where is this life trip going? It's pretty interesting, And then that led me to a doctoral degree, which I was completely depressed going through my PhD, because it was a process that was so outside of who I am as a person. Yeah. So I am relational and love to communicate, love to be in circles, but all of a sudden I was like secret about my research, and
that's right.
It was an isolating process. So I would say I was clinically depressed for 10 years, because it took me 10 years to get my PhD. And I was the first person in my family to get a bachelor's, let alone to get a PhD. So that process depleted me of my life force energy. Wow. And, even talking about it right now, there's such a sadness there, because I was literally going into, I would sit in the closet in the dark just to like come back to myself. Wow. Because I was so just frustrated and sad.
Not
and
alive.
Low energy.
Right. Not alive in the way that you know how to be.
Right. And, coming out of that experience and finally graduating, I was on bed rest with my third child. And it was at that time that I was able to be still and prayerful and focused enough to produce a copy of my dissertation that was acceptable to this group of people that needed to sign off. Yeah. And because I have a very supportive husband, he was like, Kellie, no, you're not going to drop out of the PhD program. You're going to finish the dissertation. And so he and his mother drove my dissertation 3.5 hours to my committee members set outside of their homes to get their signatures. And then he walked it over to the graduate school.
Oh, I love this. Wow.
Then he circled back around and went and talked to my advisor and was like, whatever lesson you were trying to teach her, she did it.
She got
Release her. And, but that process really, I don't want to say it broke me, but it took so much of my energy that the healing from receiving the doctorate, I would say it's still happening. Yeah. I'm still calling back parts of myself. And so once I finished the PhD, I did say that I wanted to do a year of service. So I taught Spanish at a Christian high school for a year. And I would, every 2 weeks, I would get that check for $526. And I would say, am I insane? Did I get my doctorate to make $526 every 2 weeks? So I did that. And then finished up my clinical training so I could do psych licensure and all that business. But anyway, by and by, I became a tenured professor at a small Christian school. And again, there, they wanted me to be something that I wasn't. And I was the only person that looked like me there. And so that same sadness of wanting to be in a healthy community, but not being able to be fully who I was and not being accepted and having to fight to say that people like me can actually graduate. People like me deserve an opportunity to be in college. You don't have to lower standards for people like me to be here in your Christian school. So again, it was like that sadness. And I found myself like, I got to get out of this place. Yeah. And who leaves a tenure position? Who gets tenure and then leaves the university? You know? So, but I was sick. I was literally high blood pressure, backache, just those somatic issues coming up.
You were very important, what you're sharing with us already, Kel, because you're that emotional, where it was an emotional disconnect, or it obviously was changing your physiology, and it
was hard. It was very hard. And then, what happened was, my doctor took me off work and said, I just want you to drink tea and do yoga and not be in the struggle. I'm moving to another room. Okay. And what happened then is that when I was off work, I started getting phone calls from Cleveland Clinic. And this woman kept saying, oh, we want you to join us at the Center for Integrative Medicine. And I was thinking, is this somebody pranking me? I didn't apply to work at the clinic. And then I saw the woman on the Dr. Oz show. And I was thinking, she's real and she looks like me. And so I waited 3 days and then I called her and she was like, I was waiting for your call. I wasn't going to let you tell me no. And I thought, is she for real? And so in November of 2011, 11/11, for those of you that connect with that, I started working at the Center for Integrative Medicine, doing a lot of the things that I absolutely love. I mean, using drumming and dancing and mind-body medicine for healing. And it was a gift. It was a blessing. And so Dr. Tanya Edwards was the first person to ever say to me, come, be who you are, do exactly what you do. And I was like, well, do you need a resume? She was like, no. I know everything about you that I need to know. She goes, come and be completely yourself. My job is to help make your dreams come true.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. I think, Kelly, you made me realize how my mentor was that way as well. She said, you need to come work at this treatment center. Rather, they need you. Right. And I need you to run it. And whatever you're doing, forget about that and come on over here. And,
exactly.
It led to where we are. It led to where we are right now. So thank you for sharing that. That really helps us all. And this is so important. I really want everybody to get a sense of understanding of the layers and the texture of the different people that are in our program that we select to work with and collaborate with. And Dr. Kelly and I have always had just an immediate very deep connection like this on many levels. So I love to continue that.
So would I.
So Kel, then when you and I connected and we were looking at what it was that you were really wanting to make as far as changes for yourself. Share with me, what you recall about that, about the really important things that you just felt. I know you felt very compelled at the time, like this time. What were some of those
Right.
things? Yeah.
Yeah. So where I was at when I discovered the amazing Dr. T is that I was completely just exhausted and in a place of inertia. I had a lot of ideas about what I wanted to do, but I was just tired because I commute a long way to my job. It takes me sometimes an hour and a half. And so, like, physically, I just didn't have the energy to do the things that I wanted to do. And also, I felt stuck. I mean, I had been walking around with a poetry book that I wanted to write since 2011. And really, it was like 95% finished. But there was something that wasn't allowing me to step over that threshold.
Yeah.
So I had like tons and tons of untapped potential. It was like I had stopped minding my dreams, really. They were like sitting there just hanging out. So I was not in a great place. I was kind of in a sad, dry place. And then I saw Dr. T on Facebook and listened to her call. And I was like, yes, I want to do this.
What I remember, that sense of knowing, oh boy, we got to get this out of her. Like in every evaluation that I've ever done, there's so many components and each person is unique. And then there's a lot of very standard stuff that I do, but there's always something so personal to each one. And I can remember us connecting on where you were getting through the days and you were doing your practice, but that you weren't really feeling like you were really living, right? You weren't able to show up and you have this great family, but you were feeling like you weren't able to completely show up in those relationships and the way that you wanted to. And it was really profoundly, you articulated it very well. You can see it, you want it, and something in you was just not being accessed anymore.
Oh yeah, it was. I was really sad, and then my daughter is her senior year in high school, and I was feeling like I'm disconnected from her. I'm disconnected from my husband because I wake up and it's dark. I leave the house. Yeah. I come back home. It's dark. So it was like there was nothing life giving except for what I was doing at work. I was giving all my best hours to my patients at work. And then feeling like crappy that, I didn't save anything for me or my family.
Yeah. And I remember it really looking like your description of, it's procrastinating and not being mobilized. And I just remember thinking, I have many, many purpose-driven reasons for what I do. And as I make as many of them personal to me as I possibly can as well, because that does take care of everything when you're wanting to see something in somebody. So I remember thinking, I want to read this book, right? I want to see my collaborator in the world be able to just open these gifts up to people in a way that does not require feeling like you're moving a mountain each day. And I knew, first of all, I also knew 100% that we were gonna get this done. And I always love when I know things are going to be successful that way. I know I've got that.
I felt that. It was like I felt you like connecting to that thing that I couldn't connect to. It was like you could see the light switch for me when I couldn't see the light switch. And I'm like, oh, she is feeling me. It's like, I can hear it in your voice that you had this special gift. And I always said, I need a me for me. I'm like, where's that person? And then you showed up. Like, you're the me I needed for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you named it like a light switch, because that is what I felt like. I was like, oh, we're going to turn her all back on like a Christmas tree, because I want to see everything that's created. I want to read it. I want to learn from her, from you. So anything else, Kel, that you are connected to about what you were really wanting to work on, what the outcomes were that you wanted for yourself?
One of the main things is that I wanted to be able to move forward in my life. I wanted to move forward. I wanted to proceed in being fully in my life, like fully engaged, and to be able to produce those things that I dreamed of producing, to take it out of the thinking. Winfrey tells you she wants to read your book, and then you don't even produce the book. It's like, I would wake up in the middle of the night and go, what is wrong with me? Oprah said to read my book, and I couldn't produce it.
Wow.
So,
and Kel, remind us of that story of how that happened.
Okay. So, who doesn't love Oprah, right? So I'm this person. I've always watched the Oprah Winfrey Show. Me and my sister, we went to Chicago. We were in the audience before. I love Oprah. And so I would always like send Oprah letters like, you should do this show. And my sister would go, Kellie, you're a crazy stalker. Leave Oprah alone. And so when her show went off the air, I was like, so that's weird, because I know I'm supposed to meet Oprah in more in an intimate way, and her show's going off the air. There has to be another way for me to meet her. And so, of course, I'm not saying this to anyone. It's like tucked in the back of my mind. And so, so then I hear that she's doing this, the life you want to live, city event. And so I called up one of my good friends and I said, Dolores, we have got to go see Oprah. I said, for $1,000, we can meet Oprah and get a picture. I go, but we're not going to pay $1,000. I said, but we'll get a good seat. We'll go like mid-level, get a good swag bag. We're going to go. And so she goes, okay. She lived in New York. And so she goes, let's go see her in Detroit, because then you can drive to Detroit. So anyways, so on the way to Detroit, I'm driving from Youngstown, and I'm talking to my sister on the telephone, and I'm telling her, Tracy, I'm going to meet Oprah. I'm going to tell her I'm a poet. I'm going to tell her I love her. I'm going to tell her I want to work with her. And she was like, Kellie, they're going to put you in jail because you're the ultimate stalker. Leave Oprah alone. I go, you know what, Trace?
10-foot rule.
Yeah. So I was like, look, I cannot even talk to you anymore because you're not holding my vibe. So
I have a vision.
Goodbye. Yeah. So I get off the phone with her and I pick up Dolores and I'm like, Dolores, what is your vision for this 2-day event with Oprah? And she goes, oh, I just want to be there. And I go, no, we've got to meet Oprah. I go, we are going to meet her and hug her and tell her we're going to work with her. And so she's like, okay, Kellie, like, kind of like whatever, dude. And so we get there, and the first thing you do is that they have this thing called O-Town, where she had all these vendors, all this excitement. So we get our little sparkly bracelets on. And I walk through the gate of this O-Town, like this Oprah Village, and I see this lady in this beautiful blue coat. And so I look at her and I just say to her, I love your coat. That's my mother's favorite color. And then she looks at me and she says, and you're wearing the miraculous medal. And then we just hugged, And so Dolores didn't know anything about like that inside communication that I was having with this woman. Yeah. And Dolores just focused on her VIP lanyard. She was like, where did you get that lanyard from? Where did you? And so she said, well, my best friend, Jimmy, my angel, paid for me to be in the VIP so I can meet Oprah. And so she was like, I need one of those. And then so she calls her guy, Jimmy, over. So Jimmy, he says, oh, nice to meet you all. Why don't we talk after Oprah's one-woman show tonight? And I was thinking to myself, okay, it's like 3,000 people here. Are we really going to see Jimmy after the show? So I was like, okay, Jimmy, see you after the show. And then another lady steps up and says, Wells Fargo are raffling off VIP tickets. You guys go over there and do the raffle. So I go over there and people are like talking to me and I'm like, okay, please be quiet. I got to go into my channel. And so I said my little prayer, like, please let me win these tickets. And so I won the 2 tickets for the VIP. And so I had already had like a lower VIP level. And so I called my sister and I said, hello, ye of little faith. Get your butt in the car. Yeah, I was like, get your butt in the car with your prettiest dress because you're going to meet Oprah tonight. I said, drive up here. I said, I'll have a VIP ticket waiting for you and we'll call. And so she was like, well, I don't believe you, but I'm going to get in the car. And I'm like, yeah. So she comes, and the other ticket, I gave it to my friend Dolores, and I said, just give it to somebody else, upgrade their ticket. And so we get in there, this beautiful event. Next thing I know, and we have really great tickets. We're not on the floor, but we're like in that first line where we can like touch the people going by.
Yeah.
And so Oprah comes out and she is just looking stunning and she's speaking to my soul. And I'm sitting there like in my dream, like, yes, this is happening.
My vision, your vision that was coming true. Yeah.
It's happening. It's happening. I'm in it. So then after the show is over, I'm still sitting in my seat like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then next thing I know, I see Jimmy. And Jimmy is like, hey, Kellie, did you enjoy the show? I said, absolutely. He said, did you like seeing Oprah? I was like, I'm still shaking. I can't believe it. He said, well, here's my VIP lanyard because you have to meet Oprah. So he takes it off. He puts it on my neck. He says, go get your friends. All of you are going to meet Oprah tonight.
Oh, beautiful.
And I almost stopped breathing. And so he says, just walk with me. He walks us through security. And then he walks us down this long corridor. And it's like a blue soft light. And then I was like, thank you, Jesus, Mama. Thank you. And so I'm just walking, just taking, and then we go into an elevator and we go up. And then the doors open and there's people with champagne on trays. And then there's Oprah with this beautiful gown on. And the first thing I hear her say is that you are made of the stuff of stars. And the fact that you are here is a testimony that you are a master manifester. So she said, when you come in this tent and get a picture with me, let that picture be a representation of how powerful you are.
Yes. Ooh.
And so I was like, hallelujah. And so,
no kidding.
So I let Dolores go in first. We made the line. Dolores went in first. Then my sister went in. And I heard my sister kind of laughing. And then I hear Oprah saying to Gail, don't you have this same dress? And then Gail is like saying to my sister, is that a Calvin Klein? And my sister's like, yes, it is. And she goes, I have that same dress. And so they talked and they exchanged numbers like girlfriend.
Nice.
So then it was my turn to go in to meet Oprah. And so I was like walking like on air. And so I was like, Oprah, I work at Cleveland Clinic. I completely love you. And she goes, all my doctors are at the clinic. I love the clinic. I said, well, we love you, Oprah.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, I'm a poet. And I said, I know my angel brought me here to meet you because my mentor had died that year. Yeah. And so I was still like very raw with my own grief.
Yeah.
So I said, my angel brought me right here to meet you. And so she said, what is the name of your book? And I said, I don't remember because I'm so nervous. So she looked at me, she said, you know the name of your book. You wrote it. This is your book. What is the name of your book? And I was like, Poetry, Prose, and Miscellaneous Musings, Volume 1. And then she called her guy over and she said, we need her information. I want to see her book. And I was thinking, oh, wow, this is happening. This thing is happening.
Yeah.
And then so I got my picture with her and I was trying to like hug her up. And she goes, no, put your arm down and let me just hug you because the picture will look so much nicer.
Oh,
I was like, okay, Oprah. And so then I left the tent feeling really good. And then the producer of the Oprah Winfrey Show came and tapped me on the shoulder and was like, my niece is at the Cleveland Clinic. Can you help her?
Oh, wow.
Can you work with her? And so I maintained some communication with her. And then I knew, gosh, this wasn't even about meeting Oprah. It was about meeting this lady
It's a whole,
to,
a whole web
yeah,
of things, right? That are all
yeah,
working. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So hold on, let me just grab something real
Oh, no
quick.
problem.
So I just happened to have my picture of me and Oprah.
Thank you for sharing that. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So but then I got back home, back into my life, and I had the galleys of my book. I had the galleys of my book at that time 3 years already.
Okay.
So I did send the galleys of my book to Oprah's people. Never heard back, you know, but also it wasn't a finished book.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't a finished book, but I felt so much like self-sabotage there.
Okay.
Because I was like, who meets Oprah, hugs Oprah up. Oprah says, I want to read your book. And then I'm talking to the producer of the Oprah Winfrey Show. Who doesn't take advantage of that? I didn't. Kellie didn't. And then I would talk to Oprah Winfrey's producer, and she would say, you're the only person I know that's never asked me to come meet Oprah. And she would invite me, to her house. But I was so busy in my crazy, mixed up, like sympathetic nervous system overdrive life,
oh, yeah.
that I couldn't even sink into that miracle.
Well,
so
Kel, I really am so glad that I got to understand the more about that moment in life and where your intention was creating outcomes, but then where there were things in your emotional capacity that needed strength to go that next level distance, especially at times, just for everyone to get a sense of this, especially when it's right there and you've been working your whole life, but then there it is. And it is taking a new emotional bandwidth, quite honestly, to receive it, which is as important as the emotional bandwidth to do it. Yeah. And these are different things, right, that we would look at and work on. And so I get so this makes a lot of, this helps gives us a lot of insight in that was all clear, that was available, and you had the experience of self-sabotage, which more so, and you're asking yourself, who does that? But more so, Kel, what you just said was, you were feeling that aspects of you didn't have the emotional strength to go ahead and go into this entirely new foundational level of your service.
Right, absolutely. Because because when I did some work with some people in Chicago, they would come and see me at the clinic, and I would always say, do they really need to come all the way from Chicago to see me? And I would try and make referrals. Like, there's a lot of great people in Chicago, because I would think, this magic isn't coming from me. This magic is coming from a different source that I just don't flip on the light switch and more magic is gonna happen. And so I was just feeling nervous, like people wanted a lot more. I felt like people wanted a lot more from me that I really had to give.
Yeah, no, and this is really important I'm so glad we're in this piece of service, and this sacred conversation is, a lot of times this gets confused about, people say I am afraid of success and things like that. That gets really confusing for people to understand. And more so, in the paradigm I work under, and I know that you know and do as well now, Kel, is that, it is, nobody's afraid of success. There's an emotional capacity that if it's continually developed, then as we're manifesting things, then our emotional capacity and strength will be able to support it on an actual logistical level, right? Because we're manifesting from an internal place that is so powerful, our powerful creative selves. But then to let that manifestation come into pure physical form
Oh
That's the
yeah.
part we're often not taught as much about, and that can seem very burdensome and heavy, and it can look like self-sabotage or fear of success. But
Hmm.
really, there's more emotional strength to develop and a more emotional infrastructure when
Right.
you are creating a new life infrastructure beyond the one that has been supporting the manifesting you just did.
Yes.
And
Yes.
sometimes it's hard to know what's going on, and it can look like a big regression, and it can look like so many things.
Hmm.
And that's why it's good for us to get in there and tinker around and look and see what it really is.
Exactly.
Um, but it's really helpful, Kel, to be able to see that all of that was going on, and then there just was not enough emotional mobilization
Hmm.
in order to be able to experience the success your capacity creates without it being stressful,
Right.
right? And this is where
Yes.
so many people get stuck, and then you get stuck there, and then the fact that that's happening makes you feel even worse, which creates another new emotional cycle off of that, because we're not really taught these things very much.
Right.
This is more intricate emotional development and more intricate development of our
Right.
creations,
Right. Yeah.
right?
So then I would always ask myself, so how did I let that boat sail?
Mm,
How did I not take advantage of those opportunities that were in front of me? It's like I can do this, but why couldn't I step over the threshold? So it was a lot of
judgment.
judgment,
Yeah.
and that judgment got to be really heavy.
Oh yeah, yeah, it'll be debilitating. So Kel, when we connected beyond the light flipping the switch, what would you say was what would you say drew you to the work with me, the process with me, and also what was scary about that? What was overwhelming about that? Because that's something I encounter so much for
Hmm.
people, and I'm often able to help them move through that fear into what they want. But
Right.
it's a very valid thing because they're used to a whole different experience. So, what was
Right.
it that drew you and sparked you, or and helped you also move through your question of whether or not all this could work for you?
Hmm.
Let's start with that. Yeah.
So, what started me to really percolating of knowing that I need to move past these blocks and kind of up level my life is that I had a lot of death in my life.
Yeah.
Like my
That's
my
right.
father my
That's right.
father-in-law was dying at that time. He hadn't passed at that point, but my dad has Alzheimer's, and then my
Yeah.
aunt and a couple of good friends of mine had died, and so I was really feeling like, okay, I don't have forever in this earth suit, so I need to get to a place where I can begin to live these deeper dreams out, or I'm going to leave the planet unhappy, and I
Yeah.
didn't want that. So,
Unexpressed. Yeah.
right. And so when I heard you and I listened to you, I thought this can be my opportunity to have the type of support that I give others for myself,
Yeah.
that I have to step up to another level and get a good support for me, because I've had um, therapist, coach in the past that become like my friends because
Yeah.
we're all therapists, and then like we're buddies, and I'm like, no, I don't want to be a buddy. I want you to help me.
Hold,
you
hold,
know?
hold me to it and be
Yeah,
yeah,
hold me accountable.
yeah,
It's just
right.
so I felt that in our conversation. When we had that first conversation, I knew that you were the right person, that this was the right program. But I was afraid of the financial
Yeah.
investment. I was really the money aspect
Yeah.
terrified me,
Yeah.
because I was also in the process of cutting my hours at the clinic. So
Right.
I'm like, now how am I cutting my hours at the clinic, but then saying I'm going to spend this money over here
Yeah.
for me because I need it?
Yeah.
Well, I needed it, and so you gave me some reassurance, and you were really so like confident
Right.
about this probability, this
Yeah.
possibility, this 100% a surety that this thing is going to work. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, now what does she know? I'm like, she knows something here. And so, I talked to my husband. I was like, honey, I need you to be my benefactor on this. And also that same day that I talked to you, I received a stock quote in the mail, and it was like the exact amount of money that I needed for the program. And I was like, I think this is a sign. So that helped me to say yes. And then even though after I said yes, I was still afraid.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I just got scammed. Oh man, just like the roof, I got scammed. But you showed up as a real person again, and you called. You called, and you're like, okay, this is like what happens. That the fear still comes up,
Yeah.
but we're going into a deconditioning program, a process. And I was like, okay. And so you gave such amazing reassurance that,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's really helpful, Kel, and it makes me think of, again, something I just want to acknowledge and is so important for everybody. A few things is, right, when you're a powerful creator like yourself, when it's big, when it's powerful, when the vision is what it is, and when others have been supportive but haven't maybe helped hold you in a, like, are strong enough for you to be your strong ass self.
Right.
While and strong in where the emotional dynamics aren't serving. And if somebody is not strong enough to be as strong as you and where those emotional dynamics aren't serving, then you end up running the process subconsciously, at least, and you repeat the same pattern as that. So I knew that as well. I knew, who is it, just thinking of all the different people that are doing transformative work, and that your power and your vision and what it was really about, it absolutely needed an unequivocally, like, no, this is like what you need to know, what you need to hear, and what you need to do. And one of the things I also want to acknowledge, because this is so important for everyone as well, so not only in selecting, does somebody have the strong leadership that can hold the strongest people as they go through this transformative container, this gateway. At the same time, one of the greatest things is how coachable, trainable that you are as a person, because that allowed me in every moment to be as adamant and clear and containing and mobilizing as I could possibly be. And every time, and this is what's important for everyone to know who says, what if if things never worked for me, how can they work? We don't let that be the case, because we're going to go in after you. We're going to tell you what we're going to guide you and lead you in what we feel you need, with no holding back. And for people who are ready to receive that and say, yes, that is exactly what I want to hear, that is exactly what I need to know, that makes all the difference. And your level of coachability, responsiveness to pretty, and for me, and I'm an adamant, intense, and I'm intense because I'm mobilizing here in a big way. And I really have appreciated, it's one of my favorite things, because I'll go wherever I need to go, and know whatever happens is meant to happen. But I love this has been one of the greatest journeys of my life with you, because you've always been like, yep, that's it. Let me go up to my next, let me get back up to the plate. And I just want to thank you for that so much, because I was never, ever, afraid, or just to say, let me just break it down, Cal, and let's look at it. And then that collaboration was so cool and so strong between us.
Yeah, it was incredible. And then I think because I know it was because you were so confident. And then most people don't call me Kel. Oh. Except my close friends. And you're like right away, hey, Kel. And I was like, what? So you felt really familiar and authentic and real. So that really, really helped me. I felt such scaffolding of support from you and the entire team.
I love that.
So there, yeah.
Yeah, that it is the truth about the confidence. I know it, and I know it beyond what anybody can know it to be yet, even though it's deep inside of you. Yeah. And so for all of you that will ever watch this, you can know that confidence it's even beyond that. It's a deep spiritual knowing of my role in any given person's life, and Dr. Kellie has that same role in different people's lives. But knowing and having zero, no question about it is so important for us to create outcomes for ourselves. And if anybody has a hesitation about something within themselves, they can't necessarily take you there. So you can know that there is 100%. I know, as long as when I'm coaching and holding accountable and whatever, just facilitating, that if there's a responsiveness that says, yeah, I want to grow through that, then we're always gonna go somewhere greater than we could even fathom between us in our imagination right now. Yeah.
So I always get a feeling when someone is living in their area of giftedness, and my interactions with you from the beginning was like, wow, this woman is living in that channel of her full purpose. Like, that's why she's on the planet. And to be able to connect with you, I said, she's here so that I can be more of who I am, like the complete essence of me here. And I let my husband listen to one of your training calls to me personally. And he was just like, he just kind of shook his head like, oh, she knows. Yeah. She knows.
I love it.
Yeah. So you blessed our whole family, this work that we've done. You blessed our whole family.
Thank you, Co. Yeah, that is something. That is something for sure. I love that when somebody knows, they know, and that's so important for everybody. When you know, as Kel did, then you're organizing all these other things, and there's all these other pieces. But the knowing is really, really important in the process of anything, and everything else will fill in around that. Right? Everything else will fill around that. So, Kel, as you made this decision and you got going, and what we know now is that you were, just like I say to everybody, you're gonna feel uncomfortable until we've done some of this work together. And so, was there anything to mention about that, about what it was like to follow the knowing, even though there was the emotional, the stuff going on that was like, oh, what am I getting myself in for?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I was like, now what do I do now? What am I supposed to be doing? It felt a little overwhelming. Like, okay, there's modules, there's calls, there's this, there's that. And it felt like almost like too much.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. And then I would say, okay, my father-in-law just died and I'm planning a funeral and I'm flying back here and there. I need to take time off of the program. It's no way I'll do this in 12 weeks. And then you were like, keep doing the program, especially now. And the more I listened to the modules, the more I was able to have just an emotional peace to be able to plan the funeral, to be there for my family, to go fly out to California in the middle of everything, do some filming and this and that. It strengthened me because I had more support. It was like it was like my foundation was being filled in, like those holes that had been in my foundation from the pain of, trauma in my youth, trauma in my doctoral program, trauma in my professional life, that the holes were being filled in as I went through the program and stuck with it. So it was beautiful.
This is also, such a gift you're giving us, Kel, because the pattern, our conditioning in our culture is that there will be some time that's all super clear for us to develop ourselves.
Right.
And I created this program and what we do so that people are whatever they are in the middle of and whatever they are up to. It is designed to use your exact experiences, even if it's something very intense, extreme. It's because when you condition yourself in that
Right.
state, then you're
Hmm.
conditioning your emotional muscles even more powerfully. And it's meant to be utilized as that scaffolding in
Yes.
whatever it is that you're going on. So for anybody who's like, I got this going on and that going on, that's all also going on a certain way because this scaffolding piece is the piece that can make everything that feels like it's a lot feel like
Yeah.
you've got a foundation underneath it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it really made a difference because what usually my old pattern was if I have a death in the family, I'm getting off of life.
Yeah.
I'm stopping everything. I'm going to be in the corner. I'm going to be the ultimate griever. Like, I can't do anything else. So, this was the first time where I was able to stay in life and say, okay, this is my crying time. This is my listening to module time. And
Yeah.
this is my planning the music for the funeral time.
Yeah.
This is for my holding my mother in law time and still do life in the midst of everything.
That is
So it
amazing.
taught me taught me to stay in it.
That was amazing. So that another important pearl of wisdom for everybody that it can all be integrated with each other
Yeah.
and that's ultimately what more of a full potential life experience is
Yeah.
that is that we can process through deep emotional transitions in life with deep meaning and ceremonial meaning uh, and do it with an infrastructure that actually allows that to be done more easily, more effectively, more integratively.
Hmm.
So again, it's all by design to increase emotional capacity and strength through whatever it is that is occurring and to make that all the next best version of something. And you might say, what's the next best version of a funeral process and a loss? But
Hmm.
Kel, if I remember, you were able to make so much more
Oh,
meaning out of those experiences than if you had done the old pattern of being off in the corner, as
right.
you said.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, just even the ceremony, the ritual of the funeral, that
Oh
even
yeah.
became more reflective,
Mm,
more meaningful for the whole family. I was able to listen more deeply to what other members of the family needed, in that ceremony, and
love that.
just it was a lot more honoring that I was able to do by having this other support, the phone calls, the group coaching,
Yeah.
the modules. I always had an earbud in my ear.
Yeah.
I'm on my way to the cemetery or to wherever. I have
Yeah.
an earbud. I'm on the plane. It was very helpful.
That's great. No, exactly. Could be doing it from anywhere at any time in any way because the intention that you had was to utilize this transformational process right in the middle of life, which will keep bringing you stuff until you do it. It'll bring more
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
So you can do it, right? People feel they
I
have
was in
to.
Thailand.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
exactly.
I was I was in Thailand
That's
and in
right.
Hong Kong. I wound up being in the hospital
That's
in
right.
Thailand. I had my earbud in, listening to the modules to
Yeah.
get me through this experience of, am I going to die in Thailand? Better listen to the modules. Like,
No,
let
I
me get
knew
through what is.
this is so great what you're speaking to because the intention drove the behavior and then the stuff drove more intention.
Yeah.
And everybody, you can make this work in your life if your intention is to create your outcomes and to grow in the way that you want to and maximize that kind of experience. So that is perfect for people to understand that yes, there's a version of it where you've got all your perfect but cards laid out and all of that. But it's not, then that's great, but it's designed for real life, and it's designed for people to be able to follow a set of intentions that they have for the life that they want to be creating as soon as possible from right where they are and in the middle of whatever they're doing.
Yes.
Very much so. So, Kel, what were some of the initial things that really sort of surprised you about how you were changing and the kind of transformation you were experiencing?
I was getting things done. I was setting deadlines for myself and being in integrity with myself. So that was one of my biggest issues, that I felt like I was out of integrity with myself in my life. And so all of a sudden I was making dates with myself to go to the gym or to get my book editing done or to work on my website. And I was showing up for those things that I was saying to myself. Yeah. So that was the biggest shift. And I know my husband starts to go, wow, you're making things happen. And I was like, yes, honey. That was exciting to see me doing life in a different way.
Love that. And it was all going pretty darn quick. Like every time I turn around, it's like, I did another thing. And I was like, no surprise here between us and our Wonder Twin powers and the rest of the crew that is all leading here. So, and isn't that phenomenal? Because I think maybe one of the top, could be at the top two of what it is that people that we talk to each month, and out of the, sort of the top two things, besides just general anxiety and a sense of being very emotionally sensitive to everything and having that kind of be such a responsibility. But this thing that can look like procrastination or not executing and not being able to follow through is one of the number one things that's going on. And in our culture, that's taught to look like something else rather than truly an emotional dynamic that's going on. So important for everybody to know that, this is what I consider to be maybe one of the most underreported and misunderstood and truly emotional areas for people. And so very quickly for Dr. Kellie to be able to begin to execute right after having felt felt not as mobilized and energized, and then begin to execute, and the momentum that builds.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah. It's been phenomenal. I mean, because when I say I have the book 95% written since 2011, it's like I joined this program in May, and my father-in-law died in May, so I kind of slowed down a little, but my book came out at the end of August. It's like I have a book now, and I was able to work with someone to create a website. I have a website. So these things are things that I had talked about, and then felt a lot of guilt that I wasn't launching those dreams. So with this program, I've been able to just work with myself in a different way, come into a different relationship with myself. I would listen to the modules and go, oh, this is what I tell my patients. So it's like I finally had a person for me,
So Kel, well, since we're on the subject, if you'll share more things that have been really transformative for you, things that you now notice, how you're operating as a person, what it feels like to have, really had the essence of you be able to be catalyzed and being, being in a different state. No, at this moment, living more in a higher emotional state and all of that. What other things would you share about, what you feel is different for you now?
My relationships in my household are different. So we're all more present for each other. We have more time where we're more conscious with each other, and more sensitive to each other in a good, healthy way. And all of us, like my daughter has always been forward moving, like a rocket. She's laser focused. But my husband and I, like, we're moving forward on projects that we had talked about for years. So the house is changing. He even bought me a new car, and I was like, hallelujah. I didn't even realize that my old car was just like not the most comfy. So it's like, so everything has up level. I even have a better relationship with the dog. I mean, so everything has been energetically impacted by me doing my work. So that it has rippled out, and I'm not so sensitive to every little thing. And I notice myself faster and can pull myself out of that old behavior faster and show back up in a healthier state in just quicker amount of time.
Okay. More energy, right? Just
oh my gosh,
different flow state.
I get up at like 5:30 in the morning now. I go to the gym. I'm lifting weights. I'm walking in the park. I get up and do my meditation practice. Even on Saturdays, I'm up with my meditation group at 7 in the morning. I am so much more energized. I'm doing I've always taken my supplements, but it's like I'm just making sure I stay with my integrative physicians and not just, like, they're just right down the hall from me. I can go see them anytime. But like seriously making my appointments and saying, okay, let's review my supplements now, or let's check my thyroid again. It's been a while. Being more proactive in my life.
Okay.
And
this energy one is so huge because, again, that would be maybe one of the top ranking things that we hear from people who have been emotionally sensitive in their life. They are more dispositionally sensitive, and they're more nurturing and healing based type of individuals. And this energy piece is like, at a certain point, it's just flatline for people. So if you were to kind of rank where your energy was, like, let's just do a scale of 1 to 10 and where it is now, what would have been the difference?
When I first talked to you, when I first listened to your webinar, I was probably at a 2 for energy.
Okay.
I mean, literally, if I wasn't at work, I was in bed, tired, just tired, and don't call me because I'm not going to answer the phone. Leave me alone. I'm recuperating so I can go back out into it.
Stage of
and
recovery.
Now my energy is probably, I want to say a 10, but I want it to be at a 9 so I can, but it's kind of a 10.
Yeah.
My energy is a 10. I'm getting a lot done, but I'm taking care of myself. And then I notice when I've done a little too much, and I'll go, oh, you know what? Let me just get in bed early tonight. I'm noticing I'm a little tired, as opposed to I'm still going to stay up till 2 in the morning. I get into bed, rest.
This is fabulous for consistency, right? For the rest of your life, so that it's got a different quality to it than no energy, doing things that in a recovery cycle, which has all kinds of secondary emotional dynamics to it, and being able to stay in a pretty darn consistent flow state of energy, emotional state of energy, and recognize, make a little shift, but not have a whole cascade of emotional dynamics that need to tell you it's more than what it is and needs to be.
Right.
It's huge.
Absolutely.
And so what do you feel like now, Kel, that you'll be able to do? I mean, and anything you want to share again more about what you're in the middle of and what you're up to now versus being in bed, and then what you feel like you're going to be able to do with this methodology now internalized, combined with your own, what are you feeling?
So basically bringing those dreams that I've had since forever, like into life, like bringing them into a manifested form. So writing those books that I've wanted to write since I was a little girl, since I was 5 years old, dreaming of, leaning on my stack of books, like creating those books, and then also creating excellent collaborations with people, and using the website as a place for people to learn about holistic health and wellness, and to talk about some non-traditional things. I'm a non-traditional uh, person when it comes to my therapeutic approaches. So sharing some of that, a lot of that, and creating workshops and trainings, and then doing wonderful things with my family, going on those cruises, going on those vacations, and having that balance for me, going to the spa, just, so maximizing my potential. So I always ask for the gifts that I brought onto the planet that were born in me, that they come out and that they are lived in the world for the service of peace. I'm really about let's spread peace and joy through being healthy and whole.
Love it. And Kel, would you say, with the way you've internalized this methodology, and it obviously is so much more powerful given your own training and everything like that, it adds a whole nother layer to it. Do you see a sense of where you will always be able to open up the energy that you want, and being able to follow that thread of yourself through the rest of your life without necessarily needing to go into more painful, suffering, emotional states anymore?
Oh, definitely. And because so much has shifted. So I feel like, so what I always talk to my patients about is that we are shifting into a new neural pathway. We're laying down a new track in the brain. And so that's what I've done through this program, that I have shifted. And I don't have to convince anybody that I've shifted. Mm-hmm. It's evidenced in how I'm living my life, and I am validating that for myself.
Nice.
And the other thing, if I wake up and I feel like I'm on the slippery slope, I still have the modules to go back to.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be like, "Oh, Kel, you've graduated from the program. I'm snatching up the modules." It's still there, but I really feel like so much of my physiology has changed, that my cells have shifted, and I'm living a different life, a life that's just more an integrity.
Yeah.
It's
so alive. It's so alive. It's like really, and it's feeding back to me all the time and how alive it is. I can feel exactly what's going on when you're out in your life with your mojo activated.
Yes. It's exciting.
So this is important. I want everybody to really get a sense of a transformational experience like this can make it different for the rest of your life. And while it doesn't mean you won't take this methodology and all that you are, the essence of what's inside of you, and you won't activate it at times when this automated way of being, when you up level something in your life or something goes on, you want me to like reactivate it for a moment, but it's the kind of thing that you don't unlearn. It's the kind of thing that you can take throughout your life, so that you can have a whole different take on what it is to be 50, 60, 70, 80. And because your energy is coming from your emotional capacity as a person, it's coming from a different set of dynamics than just there's tasks to do and there's work to be done, right? Which sounds so tiring.
Yeah. And I really love in the program how you talk about kind of recycling our energy back within ourselves. Absolutely. So instead of, let Fulana do what Fulana's going to do out there in the world, it's not, I don't have to worry about shifting that, but just keep recycling this good energy within myself. And so that's always really helpful for me to stay on my track, or as stay in my lane, like stay in my lane, doing my thing.
Yep.
And then also knowing that I'm practicing these new behaviors again and again and again, and that is changing my own physiology.
Amazing.
So I'm not worried about going back to the Kellie in the bed that I was 6 months ago.
Yeah. Important, everybody. You're hearing it from the doc. doctor of integrative medicine at Cleveland Clinic, and who knew this, and this is a big part of what connects us both, that changing these emotional states is the way to change your physiology and have an entirely different constitution to carry you forward in your life. And that's a very real thing. And I know it gets very confusing out there with all of the different aspects of the clinical world and medications. And, you're hearing it from a doctor from the Cleveland Clinic that making these shifts at an emotional level changes one's physiology. This is what she teaches her patients as well. So you can know that whatever's going on in your physiology, no matter how extreme, that there are deeper, more powerful ways to heal and strengthen yourself that do not need to take a lifetime, and they do not need to be overly complicated, and that no matter where you are not far away from doing what it is that you're meant to be doing. Like it's not this thing about, oh, it's going to take all of this and it's so far away. You are so close, you don't even know it, really.
Right. It's so true, because in the beginning I thought, well, after these 12 weeks are up, I hope I am living in that shift, because this lady is really sounding so clear about it. And it's true. Before the end of the 12 week, I was already living in a different way and working with my patients in a different way. It's so beautiful, because what I worked with on myself in this program translates into everything, ripples out into everything. So it's made everything better. Well, and it didn't take forever.
And Doc, thanks for speaking to that part, as well as I know you're really supporting our community here, and that when I say, it's really a matter of weeks and maybe even less to start to feel dramatically differently. There's reasons for that. There's the mechanics of what we do and the intention of what we do. And so knowing that no matter how you feel and how lower frequency you're feeling, it's designed to have you start to feel better much more quickly, so you can start to do very practical, tactical things in your life that are really important to you. And even though you've been taught that things take a long, long time, that's not necessarily true with the certain strategy, certain guidance, leadership, your intention, our intention. And it really can be a matter of weeks to feel that different, even though the way I do the program is so that it's a more extended amount of time over a 12-week period, so that it becomes cellular. Not just that you got to that level, you got that access, and you're on fire, but that this is as automated as all the other automations that have not been serving you and end up leading to outcomes you never intended.
Yes, yes. So being in the habit of those things that serve you at a higher level.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. Absolutely. It's a beautiful program, and I thank you for sharing it with the world.
Thank you,
So
Kel.
Thank you, Dr. T.
Thank you, Kel. If I can ask you a couple more things and we'll wrap it up. What would you say to people who believe, who have done it all, been through it all, whether their history in life is extreme? And I know not everyone in this community is as extreme, but if I speak to that person, it'll include everybody. People who feel like they've been through so much that is so traumatic, and also that people in general who have tried so many things and felt so disappointed and feel also like they may not in their story be fixable. And that's one of their biggest concerns for the most part typically is, I believe that you believe you can do this, Dr. T, but what about my history and evidence that it's just not possible for me? What would you say, Cal?
I would say for those people that feel like they aren't fixable is to just trust yourself again. Trust yourself one more time, and know that we are all having a capacity to up level, that we all have that capacity to move out of our old shell, even though it feels like we can't, even though we feel like we're boxed in. So make a declaration that I am shifting right now. I declare that I am moving forward right now. So just declare it and use the technology that's been created and put in front of you.
I love this, Cal. Another little area from there is, and you mentioned a little bit earlier, people can feel afraid to make an investment in themselves when they've been making more micro investments and not having the relief or the empowerment or the results they've wanted. And it's a new paradigm for a lot of people. Yes. Because of we're doing huge outcomes here in a huge period of time, and you know the kind of energetic leadership that we put into this. And so for people that feel really afraid about that paradigm and like something they're going to hate themselves later because they made an investment and they happen to be the one person that it didn't work for. Right. What would you say to them?
Never be afraid to fully invest in yourself. So even if you feel afraid, imagine yourself stepping over that fear into this promised land. Just step over that fear and say, I'm going to invest in me. And this is going to work. Why? Because I'm saying it's going to work. I'm declaring that it's going to work. My boots were shaking and shivering, and I was nervous about making that investment. But I was like, ultimately, if I don't believe in myself enough to invest in me, what's the point? Yeah. And I definitely came here for a purpose. So I get to invest in myself. And money is energy. So I'm willing to put in that amount of energy into my own healing. I deserve it. So I deserve it.
Love it. How quickly would you say, Cal, that because everybody's got a kind of a little version of this, how quickly were you able to, once you were in the program, even though everybody's got starts and has their own way of coming out of the starting blocks, how quickly would you say that you could drop the concern about the investment? How quickly into the program?
Oh gosh. So I would say 2 weeks in.
That makes
because
sense.
I was challenged with the technology.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know how to. I was challenged with that.
Okay.
But once I got past the challenge on the technology and I started getting on the calls, I was like, oh, I'm loving this support.
Okay.
And then watching the modules and then doing my journaling and doing the intelligent actions, I was like, this is the best money I have spent in forever.
Oh my gosh.
Forever.
Thank you, Cal.
So that dissipated so quickly. And then your support, you being a real person and calling saying, look, Kel, I know you're feeling some kind of way. Let me share some things with you. That helped me because it wasn't like, let me pay you the money and then you disappear and you have 5 other people that work for you talking to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really appreciate that because that is one of my number one goals is that people can settle into the transformation, not be in the cycle of concern about their investment and make that shift to a point where that is one of my highest intentions beyond everything is that people can feel what it feels like to instantly begin to value yourself more because you just made that investment in yourself. You are now you are that much more valuable to you and everybody else. Mm-hmm. And that it's not just your awesome results, but that you will feel that this was a very, very strong investment in yourself. And if I haven't hit that standard, which is my standard for myself, then I know I just dig in a little bit more to make sure that everybody feels all of these types of outcomes that you're talking about, Cal.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was, I literally feel like this was the best investment I've ever made in myself. I mean, so I always tell people, don't be afraid to get a student loan to get your degree. So this is like the same thing. If you have to get a loan to do the program, get a loan because it's worth it. It is worth it. I was walking around with a whole suitcase full of dreams that were unrealized until I started working with this methodology. And it sounds a little hokey, but it's true. Like my husband would literally say to me every 2 to 3 days, "Get your book done, Kellie. Get your book done. Just get it done. Just put a cover on and get it done." But I couldn't. I could not. There were some things that needed to be healed and reconfigured inside of me before I could step out into the world in a bigger way. So with this methodology, I am now stepping out in the world as my authentic self in a healthy, balanced way.
I love it.
So it's lovely.
So Kel, where can people connect with you? We've got this amazing book. If you'll say the book name again for all of us that are going to want to, now that you've all gotten a connection with Dr. Kellie, I know you're going to want to continue on. So what is the book?
Thank you. The book it's a poetry book, and it's called Poetry, Prose, and Miscellaneous Musings, Volume 1 by Dr. Kellie Kirksey.
Yay. Love it. Well, Kel, we have had an amazing time so far cultivating joy together and doing this incredible capstone conversation. And I can't thank you enough for, I can thank you a lot for being, again, just so open to taking a journey that is different than maybe what other people have experienced before. Everything that you brought to my life so far and given to me, and allowing me the joy of my purpose to not only do the process, but see the results in it, not in you, and see and know that what will be carried on in your life and the trajectory of that, the legacy of that, and your children, your daughters, children, just the web of impact that happens when we're able to live our full potential as people and know how to do that on a daily basis. This has been one of the greatest gifts of my life. Very, very, very much.
Thank you.
So you're so welcome. So everybody, I'm going to go ahead and just wrap our conversation, and thank you also for participating and connecting with us and learning and growing and inquiring, and I'm going to just be who I am to make that recommendation that says you can absolutely have everything that you want. You can be who you want. And there is nothing holding you back in this life. And it does not take an entire lifetime or complicated set of strategies that you need to do on your own. That usually if there's anything holding you back, it is simply that we have not in this culture been taught a certain level of emotional education and emotional leadership and how to operate at our highest level, at our highest emotional level where all of life is created. And that is something that is available to you. And especially if Dr. Kellie has inspired you in some way, you can reach out. Let us know if you would like to have a conversation just like the one that Kel and I had that led to us all being able to go and read this amazing book that I'm going to buy right when we're done with this interview. All right, everyone. So I'll post a link on how to book an evaluation call. And in the meantime, I wish you all the best as you put out that intention, hold that intention to keep living your full potential. Take care.
Thank you. Be well.